The boy who knew too much. The streets of Lagos were silent, except for the distant hum of traffic and the occasional barking of stray dogs. It was 4:30 a.m., the perfect time for 17-year-old Tunde to jog before the city woke up. He liked the quiet, the cool air, and the sense of freedom. It was the only time he felt like the streets belonged to him. Tunde lived with his mother, Mama Tunde, in a small apartment near the Third Mainland Bridge. His father had died when he was just a baby, and his mother worked tirelessly as a nurse to provide for them. She always told him to be careful, but Tunde loved running. He had big dreams of becoming an athlete one day. That morning, as he jogged toward the bridge, he heard something strange, a car speeding to a sudden stop. Curious, he slowed down and hid behind a broken streetlight. Two men stepped out of a black SUV, dragging a third man between them. The man struggled weakly, his voice hoarse. "You don't have to do this," he gasped. Tunde's breath caught in his throat. Something was wrong. The two men didn't respond. One of them checked around quickly before grabbing the struggling man's arms, while the other took his legs. And then, before Tunde could even think, they hurled the man over the bridge. A splash followed as the man hit the dark waters below. Tunde clamped a hand over his mouth to stop himself from gasping out loud. His heart pounded in his chest. He couldn't believe what he had just seen. The men stood there for a moment, peering down, as if making sure their job was done. Then, without another word, they got back into the SUV and sped away, disappearing into the empty streets of Lagos. Tunde stood frozen for a second, unsure of what to do. Run. Call for help. Then he heard it, a faint, desperate gargling sound coming from the water. The man was still alive. A dangerous rescue. Tunde didn't think twice. He ran down the side of the bridge, scrambling over rocks and debris to reach the water. The current was strong, and the man was barely floating, his head dipping under. "Hold on!" Tunde shouted as he kicked off his slippers and waded in. The water was cold, and it made his body shiver, but he pushed forward. He wasn't a strong swimmer, but somehow, he reached the man. He grabbed the man's soaked shirt and pulled him toward the shore. It wasn't easy. The man was weak, heavy, and barely conscious. After what felt like forever, Tunde dragged him onto the muddy bank. The man coughed violently, spitting out water. His face was bruised, and his breathing was uneven. Tunde shook his shoulder. "Mister, are you okay?" The man groaned but didn't answer. His eyes fluttered open for a second before closing again. Tunde knew he couldn't leave him there. What if those men came back? He had to take him home. A stranger in the house. Tunde's mother nearly screamed when she saw her son dragging a half-drowned man into their small living room. "Tunde! What is this? Who is this?" she demanded, rushing to their worn-out couch. "I found him, Mama. Some men threw him into the water. I couldn't just leave him." Mama Tunde's face went pale. "Threw him into the water? My God! What have you gotten yourself into?" She wanted to argue, but the man suddenly groaned again, his body shaking from the cold. Mama Tunde's nurse instincts kicked in. She grabbed a blanket, wrapped it around him, and started checking his wounds. "This man is hurt badly," she said. "He needs rest." Tunde nodded. He was just glad the man was still breathing. That night, they took care of the stranger. Mama Tunde cleaned his wounds, gave him warm tea, and let him sleep on the couch. By morning, the man finally opened his eyes. "Where am I?" he croaked. "You're safe," Mama Tunde assured him. "My son saved you." The man turned his weak gaze to Tunde and tried to smile. "Thank you, boy." Tunde smiled back. He had so many questions, but he didn't want to scare him. "What's your name, sir?" The man hesitated before answering. Chief Okafor. Mama Tonde's eyes widened. Chief Okafor. The businessman. Tonde frowned. He had heard that name before. Chief Okafor was a famous politician and businessman. He owned a big construction company in Lagos. Why would someone want to kill him? A shocking discovery. Later that morning, Tonde was sitting in the living room, watching the news, when a breaking report flashed on the screen. Nigerian politician and businessman Chief Okafor has been declared missing. Police say his vehicle was found abandoned near the Third Mainland Bridge. His family is offering a huge reward for any information regarding his whereabouts. Tonde nearly dropped the remote. Missing. But he was right here, in their house. He turned to Chief Okafor, who had sat up, staring at the screen with tired eyes. Sir, they think you're missing, Tonde said. Chief Okafor exhaled deeply. That's because the people who did this to me, they wanted me gone forever. Mama Tonde sat beside him. Who are they? Why did they do this to you? Chief Okafor hesitated before finally speaking. My son-in-law. He is behind this. Tonde's mouth fell open. Your own son-in-law? Yes, Chief Okafor said bitterly. I recently discovered he has been stealing money from my company. Millions of naira. He has been involved in corrupt deals, using my business as a cover. When I confronted him, he denied it, but I knew too much. Tonde's stomach turned. So he tried to kill you? Chief Okafor nodded. And he won't stop until he's sure I am dead. A heavy silence filled the room. Mama Tonde looked worried. If they know you survived, they will come looking for you. Tonde felt his heart beat faster. He had saved Chief Okafor's life, but had he also put his own family in danger? If you are enjoying this story so far, please subscribe, like and comment. Thank you. The weight of Chief Okafor's words settled heavily in the small living room. Tonde swallowed hard. He had saved a man's life, but now, danger lurked at their doorstep. Mama Tonde was the first to break the silence. We can't keep you here for long, Chief. If your son-in-law believes you're still alive, he'll send people to look for you. Chief Okafor nodded weakly. I know. But I don't know who to trust. My family, my own daughter. I don't know if she's involved. Tonde frowned. Your own daughter. You think she might know about this? Chief Okafor sighed. She loves her husband. Maybe she knew about his dealings and chose to ignore them. Or maybe she was blinded by his lies. But I can't take the risk. Mama Tonde stood up and paced the small room. Then we must find a way to get you to someone who can help. Someone outside your family. Tonde suddenly had an idea. What about the police? Chief Okafor shook his head. No. If my son-in-law has been embezzling money for this long, there's a chance he has people in the police force on his side. I need someone powerful, someone with nothing to gain or lose. Mama Tonde bit her lip in thought. Then, as if struck by an idea, she snapped her fingers. I know someone. A journalist named Mr. Olisa. He's been investigating corruption in Lagos for years. If we can get to him, he can help expose your son-in-law. Chief Okafor's eyes lit up with hope. Can you trust him? I've treated his wife before, Mama Tonde said. He's an honest man. Tonde's heart raced. This was their only chance. A dangerous escape. That night, they devised a plan. Chief Okafor was too weak to move much, so Mama Tonde called Mr. Olisa and arranged a secret meeting at an abandoned warehouse outside the city. By dawn, they were ready. Mama Tonde dressed Chief Okafor in old clothes to disguise him. Tonde helped him into the back seat of an old taxi that Mama Tonde had borrowed from a friend. As they drove through the quiet streets of Lagos, Tonde kept looking over his shoulder, afraid they were being followed. They reached the warehouse safely. Mr. Olisa was already there, a tall man with sharp eyes and a notepad in his hand. When he saw Chief Okafor, his expression hardened. "I heard you were missing," Mr. Olisa said. "The whole city is talking about it." Chief Okafor sighed. "I was supposed to be dead." They sat down, and Chief Okafor told his story, from discovering his son-in-law's crimes to the night he was thrown off the bridge. Mr. Olisa listened carefully, taking notes and recording every word. "This is big," the journalist said. "If we can get this to the media before your son-in-law finds out you're alive, we can put pressure on the authorities to arrest him." Chief Okafor nodded. "Do it." Mr. Olisa promised to release the story that evening. But just as they were about to leave, Tunde noticed something strange. A black SUV was parked outside the warehouse. His blood ran cold. The final confrontation. Before Tunde could warn the others, the warehouse doors burst open. 3 men stormed in, guns drawn. One of them was a familiar face. Chief Okafor's son-in-law. Well, the man sneered. "I thought you'd be fish food by now, old man." Chief Okafor glared at him. "I should have known you wouldn't stop until you were sure I was dead." The son-in-law smirked. "And now, I will be." Tom's heart pounded. Was this how it was going to end? But just as the men stepped forward, a loud siren wailed outside. The son-in-law's face twisted in panic. "What?" Then the doors burst open again. This time, policemen flooded in. "Drop your weapons," an officer shouted. Tunde turned to see Mr. Olisa holding up his phone. "I sent a message to my police contacts the moment I saw that car. I had a feeling they'd try something." The son-in-law's face darkened. He tried to run, but the officers grabbed him and his men, forcing them to the ground. Chief Okafor exhaled in relief. "It's over." Tunde and Mama Tunde smiled. It was finally over. Justice and a new beginning. A few days later, the news was everywhere. Chief Okafor was alive, and his son-in-law had been arrested. The police uncovered all his illegal dealings, and the government launched an investigation into his crimes. Chief Okafor, now fully recovered, visited Tunde and his mother in their small apartment. "You saved my life," he told Tunde. "If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be here today." Tunde grinned. "I just did what was right." Chief Okafor turned to Mama Tunde. "And you gave me shelter when I had nowhere to go. I can never repay that kindness." Mama Tunde smiled. "You don't have to." But Chief Okafor shook his head. "No. I insist. From today, I will make sure you and your son never struggle again." A week later, Chief Okafor fulfilled his promise. He got Mama Tunde a better job at a private hospital, and Tunde received a scholarship to a prestigious school. Life had changed, but Tunde knew one thing for sure: he would never forget the night he had witnessed a man being thrown off a bridge. And he would never forget the power of doing what was right, even when it was dangerous. The end. If you enjoyed this story, please comment, subscribe and like the video. Thank you for support.